Do you believe in ghosts? It's a simple question, isn't it? But the answer, that's where things get complicated. For some, the paranormal is simply specters or whisperers in the dead of night. But for others, myself included, it's far more profound. It's about the cracks in reality, those places where the seams don't quite hold, where the veil between what we know and what we can't explain becomes terrifyingly thin. Perhaps ghosts aren't just shadows. Perhaps they are, as some suggest, the remnants of a soul too stubborn or too broken to let go. Souls tethered to a place, an event, or even a person, unable to move on. Tonight, we delve into 3 deeply personal, genuinely unsettling encounters that challenge everything you think you know about the spectral world. These aren't just stories. They are experiences that left indelible marks, backed by astonishing details, and in some cases, even undeniable photographic evidence. Our first journey takes us to a legendary haunted ship, a place where history and tragedy intertwine, leaving behind a presence that simply refuses to move on. Prepare yourself for the Queen Mary. The Queen Mary, now docked in Long Beach, California, is legendary for its grandeur and its hauntings. Thousands claim to have experienced strange phenomena within its opulent halls and forgotten depths. Our first narrator experienced this firsthand, uncovering a presence that remembered her even after a decade. I live in Los Angeles, and as you may know, there's a supposedly haunted ship called the Queen Mary. Anyway, I went to this ship on a tour, not really expecting anything to happen. I'd heard the rumors, of course, but I told myself it was just old ship creaks or imagination running wild. Well, the guide took us down to the pool room. It was vast, dimly lit, and you could almost feel the history clinging to the damp air. He was talking about a little girl who actually drowned in the pool when she was only 6 years old, and how there have been many sightings since then. I wasn't really paying attention, my mind drifting, and I kind of wandered away from the rest of the group, drawn to a more secluded area of the pool room. The people who joined us on the tour were still in my sight, but I felt oddly isolated, as if the sounds of the group were suddenly muffled. That's when it happened. A flash of blue just ran past me, so fast, like a streak of light. But it was there. I was obviously really freaked out. My heart immediately started pounding in my chest. And then I heard this little laugh, like that of a child. It wasn't playful. It was a soft, almost ethereal giggle that seemed to echo around the vast, empty pool room, yet sounded like it was right next to my ear. The air around me grew suddenly unnaturally cold, raising goosebumps on my arms. It was really dark, so I couldn't see that well. But my phone has a little flashlight, so I used that, my hand trembling slightly as I fumbled with it. I turned around, and there are at least 4 pillars in the pool room. Behind one of them, I swear, God is my witness, I saw a little blonde girl in a blue party dress just looking at me. She seemed to glow faintly in the dim light, her eyes wide, staring directly into mine. I at first thought she was in our group, so I said, "Hey, are you lost?" She just looked up at me and giggled the same way she did before. But this time, the giggle felt knowing, like she understood something I didn't. I just kind of walked away because I was getting really scared. My rational mind was screaming, but my feet moved on their own. I walked back towards the group, trying to appear nonchalant, but I was trembling inside. Then, as I rejoined them, I felt a distinct tug on my shorts. It wasn't a brush. It felt like a small hand, cold and firm, grabbing at the fabric. I instinctively looked down, and I saw the little girl, right there, standing beside me for a split second, before she seemed to shimmer and then vanish into the shadows. Just then, the guide, completely unaware of what had just happened to me, started saying how this girl was blonde and wore a blue party dress. My jaw must have dropped. I was just looking at him, a shiver running down my spine. Then, unbelievably, all of us heard the giggle. It was unmistakable. A collective gasp went through the group. I was completely scared, and the guide, his face paling, quickly said, "Okay, let's go, everyone." He clearly knew that sound. Later on, we went in the boiler room. It was even darker and more cavernous, filled with the ominous hum of old machinery. My dad was before me, but I was the last one out of the group. As I reached the exit, I looked up at this long catwalk area made of solid iron, stretching into the darkness above. And then I heard that giggle again, distinct and clear, echoing from the high beams. A moment later, a little girl, the same little girl, ran past on the catwalk, a fleeting blue blur against the dark metal. I didn't hesitate. I ran out of there so fast, adrenaline coursing through me. The strangest part is, this wasn't my first encounter. It is still so frightening to go back there. I went there once before when I was around 5, and I do remember seeing this very same little girl wearing the same thing, and her and I having a conversation, then her just disappearing into thin air. I never told anyone this story until now. I always thought it was a dream, but now, after what happened on this tour, I know it was real. What's even more incredible, I caught her on camera. I was videotaping this event, just casually recording the tour, and I still can't believe it today. When I reviewed the footage, there she was, a faint, undeniable shape in the background, a ghostly blue glow at the exact moment I heard her giggle and felt the tug. I think she remembers me from 10 years ago. I'm still so freaked out. I won't go back on that tour. It is way too weird for me, but it is really sad to see that girl still there and not being able to move on. I know what I saw, and I will always remember it for the rest of my life. If you ever go to the Queen Mary in Long Beach, CA, make sure to look for this girl. She is actually very friendly, but I'm not a fan of ghosts or the paranormal, yet I've had so many experiences. Just be careful if you go. From the haunted decks of the Queen Mary, we now journey to an ancient fortress in England, a place steeped in history and perhaps echoing with the lingering presence of those who once defended its walls. Fort Paull, near Hull, East Yorkshire, is a formidable structure known for its grim past. Our next story comes from a first-time paranormal investigator whose innocent curiosity was met with a terrifying, undeniable reality. My story is one of the most genuine stories I have read for many a year. Where to begin? Well, it was my very first investigation, and it took place at Fort Paull, near Hull, East Yorkshire. I have always been interested in ghosts and the paranormal all my life, and I was really interested in doing an investigation. I devoured books, watched documentaries, always wondered what it would be like. So by chance, I came upon a ghost hunting group on Facebook and booked me and my friend on it. The night itself was a cold Friday in February of this year. Me and my friend set off for the investigation. On the way, I was really nervous, but at the same, I was excited. The journey to Fort Paull lasted about half an hour. When we arrived, the fort loomed out of the darkness, an imposing silhouette against the moonlit sky. We made our introductions to the group, and the investigation began with our first port of call, the vaults. Nothing much really happened in there, just a chilling cold, but I did capture a creepy photo. But that is a story for another time. Once we had finished in the vaults, we moved onto the Henry VIII tunnel, and what happened in there still haunts me to this day. The tunnel was long, dark, and felt incredibly oppressive. Every sound echoed, magnifying the silence. We went inside the tunnel, and me and this guy called Gaz went upstairs, because when you get into the tunnel, there is a semicircle balcony. So me and Gaz proceeded upstairs, and the group began calling out. Over the course of the calling out session, the group began to antagonize the spirit present. Not just with calls, but some started wolf whistling at it, even taunting it. I remember feeling uneasy, a prickling sensation on my neck. Little did I know at the time that I would pay the price for their mistake. At this time, it was getting on, and we were about to leave for another tunnel, when all of a sudden, I felt something distinct touch my left arm. It wasn't a brush from a cloak or a friend. It was a cold, firm pressure, like fingers. My breath hitched. So I immediately asked Gaz if he touched me, and he denied it. I shone my torch in his direction and found he was stood out of arm's reach, so it couldn't have been him. A jolt of pure fear went through me. On the way out of the tunnel, the atmosphere felt even heavier. We caught up with two lasses in our group, and Gaz proceeded up the tunnel and out. Then me and these two lasses turned round, a bit foolishly, and decided to take a picture to see if we could capture anything. It was right then. One of them wolf whistled again, louder this time, and provocatively said, "Bye-bye, Gyu." The moment the sound left her lips, with that, we heard thunderous footsteps heading up the tunnel towards us. It wasn't just faint sounds. It was loud, heavy, purposeful footsteps, like someone running, charging directly at us from the deeper, darker part of the tunnel. It was undeniable. We didn't even think. We ran out of there as fast as our legs would carry us, screaming as we went. Pure, unadulterated terror. We went and told the rest of the group what happened, still breathless and shaking. Then Gaz, being braver than me, went down to see if it would happen again, but all was silent. The presence seemed to have retreated once we were gone. This record is a true story of what happened to me on my first investigation. And since those terrifying events, I have now joined the group, and I am still investigating to this day. It changed me. It opened my eyes to the undeniable reality of what's out there. But my question is this: what do you think it was in that tunnel? Decide for yourselves. And please leave a comment. Our final chilling account takes us to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, a town forever marked by the scars of war. The site of one of the deadliest battles in American history, Gettysburg is often considered one of the most haunted places in the world, where the echoes of past conflicts are said to manifest in the present. The Farnsworth Inn, a structure steeped in history, served as a temporary hospital during the Civil War, and its walls hold countless stories. This next story is remarkable not only for its intense encounters, but for the undeniable visual evidence captured, defying all logical explanation. I have plenty of ghostly encounters stories that I could tell, but this one is by far my favorite, since I also caught this spirit on camera without realizing it. My best friend called me one day in July of 2006. She knew I was very much interested in ghosts and the afterlife. So she told me about this restaurant, bar, house on inn located in Gettysburg, about an hour drive away from the town we live in. She said it was called the Farnsworth Inn, and it regularly hosted ghost tours in and around it. I had never actually been on a ghost tour that took place inside a house, so I knew it would be something special. She said that she had been on a tour there before and had a rather unsettling experience. She told me that when she was there last time, the tour guide was talking about the resident spirit that was known to cause bodily harm. Once it was reported that this male spirit choked several different people within 2 weeks, and she was actually pushed off of her seat, fell to the floor, and she heard a distinct male voice yell at her to get out. I know what you are thinking, and I was thinking the same thing when she told me this. Isn't that a bit cliche? The malevolent spirit yelling, get out? But she swears that it happened, and I believe her for different reasons. 1, she has never lied about anything to me before, let alone a personal experience she had. 2, I knew more about this spirit after a few other credible people talked about him. 3, the tour guides never mentioned this spirit anymore. In their words, they said, because we want to minimize the number of negative experiences. That last point really sealed it for me. They were actively trying to avoid provoking it. Now, after she told me about this place, I was excited to go. So we went that weekend. I brought my digital camera with me, a Finepix S7000, and didn't expect to come back with anything but pictures of my friend and the house. The tour guide we had, they have several of them due to the amount of people that go on the tours, had worked there for several years and had become a believer fairly early on. We started the tour outside the house, where he talked about the bullet holes in the brick walls, all from the Civil War. You could see the impact of history right there on the exterior. Then we went to the attic, which felt cold and heavy, a truly oppressive atmosphere. This is where he started to talk about a young boy that was killed on the street in front of the house by being trampled by a horse and buggy. As he spoke, the air grew noticeably colder. He started to talk about something else when the door to the attic, which opens inward, swung wide open with a creak that echoed through the room. I didn't notice at first, since I was seated closest to it, and I was looking the other way. But my friend poked me in the back, and I saw the tail end of its movement. I peeked through the open door, and nobody was there. The tour guide, calmly but with a knowing glance, said that it was most likely the curious little boy, since it happens often. A little after that happened, different people in the group started feeling things here and there. One said that she felt her belt being tugged, as if a child was playing with it. Another seemed to react to something, but didn't say anything, just looked around with wide eyes. I actually turned around because I felt someone touch my back. It was a distinct pressure, cold and fleeting. My friend was behind me, but she swears she didn't even get close to me. We were all experiencing something, an unseen presence moving amongst us. We then continued the tour in the basement where my friend had an awesome experience. It's kind of hard to describe the layout of the basement and how we were seated, but it is important to the story to know where we were. There are chairs set up in rows with an aisle in the middle so people can fill it up. My friend told me to sit in the very last row, since she heard that most activity happens to the people who sit back there. I have some trouble seeing, so I sat in the back row on the other side of the aisle, since it wasn't as far back as the other side. My back was to a wall, but on the other side of the wall was a staircase to the first floor. Where my friend was, she could see up that staircase. I, however, could not. The tour guide was doing his storytelling, and about 15 minutes into it, my friend tried to get my attention. I was interested in what he was saying, so I ignored her at first. Then she got more persistent, whispering my name urgently. Eventually, she said rather loudly, "There is someone at the top of the stairs." I didn't really believe her, so I said, "Yeah, right." But I glanced over and saw her doing double takes and triple takes, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fascination, looking up the staircase which I could not see from my angle. She looked genuinely terrified. Eventually, she said rather loudly, "Quick, someone with the camera, take a picture of the stairs." So, of course, about half of the people rushed over there and piled on top of each other to get a picture. Everyone there used flash on their cameras, which turned out to be a mistake, since no one caught anything. They were all checking their screens, disappointment evident on their faces. Once everyone was done, and they were grumbling about not seeing anything, I, without thinking too much, turned around and took one picture without flash. Since everybody checked their pictures right away and didn't catch anything, I didn't even bother looking. The tour guide asked my friend what she saw, and she told everybody. I saw a woman in period clothing standing at the top of the stairs looking down at me. She was just staring daggers into me, and she was doing this for about a solid 3 minutes until I said anything. It sounded creepy, all right, but nobody else saw this woman, just her. The rest of the tour took place across the street in a field behind a high school, where people claimed to see apparitions in the woods nearby. I had a fun time, and my friend did too. On the drive back, I looked through my pictures, laughing at different things we did that day. We had spent the whole day in Gettysburg having a tour of our own. I got to the picture that I took in the basement, which immediately something caught my eye. It was pitch black in the back of the basement, so there should not have been any sort of light in the picture. I yelled, "Stop the car! I caught something!" My friend slammed on the brakes. We pulled off the side of the road while I zoomed in. I instantly got the chills when I saw what I had captured. You can see for yourself. There is a brilliantly glowing blue area with distinct facial features. What I can make out is half of a woman's face with sort of a surprised expression, an open mouth, hair, and most compelling when seen close up is an actual iris in the eye. There are some other blue spots lower down that I perceive to be the bottom of her dress my friend said she was wearing, but I can't be sure. Also, with the close-up, It actually looks like there is another face right underneath the face I am talking about. I mean, I just think it's coincidental that I see another face there, since my friend only saw one woman standing there. It is possible that I caught more than what she could see. The coolest thing is, there was no source of light in the stairwell. Nothing. It blows my mind that I caught something this good. 3 incredible tales, each leaving us with more questions than answers. From the lingering presence of a little girl on the Queen Mary, a spirit who seems to remember and who was captured on video, to the terrifying, undeniable chase through the dark tunnels of Fort Paull, leaving a seasoned investigator permanently changed. And finally, the startling, undeniable photographic evidence of a spectral woman at the Farnsworth Inn in Gettysburg. These stories, told by those who lived them, remind us that some phenomena simply cannot be explained by conventional science. They invite us to reconsider what we believe, and perhaps to look a little closer at the shadows around us. Are these merely tricks of the mind? Or are there truly cracks in reality where the lost and the lingering still exist, interacting with our world in ways we can barely comprehend? What do you believe? Share your thoughts and your own experiences in the comments below. If you've had an encounter that defies explanation, we want to hear it. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more tales of the unexplained, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next delve into the mysteries of the unseen.